So I just wanted to share a couple of expressions that are super handy when trying to parent objects in 2D and 3D space. Is specifically when parenting objects to objects that are already parented to other objects. So effectively obtaining the world position of objects and parenting to that rather than the local position. So I'll just explain that. So this scene is like a particle simulation with a light streak spinning around this central point. So the parent setup is we've got the emitter light here, which is parented to this null, which is in 3D space. And that's parented to this central rotation null here. So if we're looking at the local position of these objects, you see actually none of them are moving. Yet there is movement in the space, and that's all down to the rotation of this central point. But you know, this emitter, if you look at it, is obviously moving quite far, and the local position is 0 because it's in this parented chain. So yeah, the emitter is parented to this null, and this null is parented to this null. So if we want to put say we want to label this this point here, I'll drag a label into the frame here. And I guess my first port of call, like trying to do this, might be to make this 3D. Let's just turn the lighting effects off on this for a second. And then maybe like pick whip onto the emitter. And you see that's just not worked at all. Like it's using the orientation of this parented setup. You'll see that orientation is matching that of the null, and that's not what we want. You know, we want it to be facing camera the whole time. So let's unparent that and just reset the translations, the transforms. So there's a couple of ways to do this now. If we wanted to do this in screen space, so as a 2D object, just switch that to 2D. We take the position and Alt click on the stopwatch to create a expression, and I'm going to type a. This is creating a variable, so a equals thisComp.layer. Emitter parent, so that's the null that this light is parented to. And then we're going to say a.toComp, a.anchorPoint. So this function here, .toComp, what that's actually doing is it's taking the world position of A and converting that to a 2D position, a screen space position. So if I just accept that, you'll see that has now, that label is parented to it. And if I scrub the timeline, you'll see that anchor point of the label is parented exactly to the anchor point of the emitter parent. So that's great. You know, that's sort of doing what we want, and we can scale that down to match the size of the front of the orb there. So that's working great, except if we were to zoom in on this, you'll see that actually it's obviously, because it's 2-dimensional, it's not using any scale coordinates. it's not scaling up with the particular. So let's just zoom back out. I'm going to switch this off and I'm going to duplicate it, delete the expression. So I'm just resetting this as if I've just dragged it into the comp, set it to 3D. So setting it to 3D instead of 2D, and then I'm going to use the same expression as before, except I'm going to change thisComp to a.toWorld. Now that's a 3D equivalent. That's doing the same thing but in 3 dimensions. So if I now accept that, you'll see that is now parented. And when we zoom in, that is staying, that is matching the scale perfectly. So that might be more like what we want to do in this instance. Now, just want to share quite a common issue with this. If I was to bring this label, this is called label offset, and this is the same label except for in the comp, the center of the center of the frame. So this is where the default anchor point is in the center here and not in the center of these this target, which I'd like it to be. Now I could obviously, move that around in here, or extend the size of the comp, or quite simply let's just add that expression to here. You see, obviously it's not parented in the center, and I can't change the position now of this because I've got the expression on it. But I can change the anchor point, so I can just tweak this to match up with the center. Scale it down, and that's now working.